Today, in my talk, what I thought that I will share with you the type of applications which we are doing by making use of this technology which is available in space, and especially for the Himalayan region. Since we are sitting in the foothills of Himalaya, and Himalaya, as all of us know, is the water tower of India. And for all the Indian rivers, the North Indian rivers which are emanating from Himalaya, from this region, the remote sensing and the geospatial data sets coming either from GPS or from our Earth observation satellites provides a wonderful tool to study various aspects of Himalayan ecosystems. So that's what I thought that I would like to share some of our work which we have been doing in ISRO. So the first slide which I am showing you over here is a wonderful image of a sensor which has been developed by Dr. Kiran Kumar's team at Space Application Center. It's called LIS-3 sensor, LIS-4 sensor, which is there on most of our remote sensing satellite systems. It has a special resolution of the order of around 5 meters or so. And then we also saw some of the sensors which has been developed which can provide you the high resolution topographic information. So a Cartosat-1 mission was flown, which is now providing 10-meter spatial resolution digital elevation information across the India. So we have combined these two data sets. We have taken this 10-meter digital elevation model and the high-resolution image of LIS-3 sensor, LIS-4 sensor over the Gangotri Glacier. So what you see is the three-dimensional view of the Gangotri Glacier over here. You can see those snow-clad, mountains. And once this snow, it keeps on accumulating, it starts flowing through these slopes, through these drainage lines at which you can see very clearly. And there are then tributary glaciers will join it. And then in the end, when the glacier reaches to an altitude which is sufficiently low, as has sufficient amount of pressure, the ice starts melting. And that is where in the end you can see a spot. This is where the Gomukh is there. आज हम लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं तो हमारी क्या लोकेशन है? हमारे डेटा कई चीजों से आ सकते हैं, सैटेलाइट से भी आ सकते हैं, फोटोग्राफ से भी आ सकते हैं, वीडियो से भी आ सकते हैं. इन सब डेटा सेट्स को जब हम कंबाइन करते हैं डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म पे, सो दिस टेक्नोलॉजी इज कॉमनली कॉल्ड एज जियोस्पेशियल टेक्नोलॉजी. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. जो कॉमन 3 इसमें एलिमेंट्स है, एक जीपीएस टेक्नोलॉजी है और अभी हमारा नाविक जो कॉन्स्टलेशन आने वाला है, तो पोजिशनिंग की पावर हमारे पास स्पेस से आती है. रिमोट सेंसिंग जिसको हम कॉमनली अर्थ ऑब्जर्वेशन भी कहते हैं, जिसमें कि आप जो है 2 डायमेंशनल 3 डायमेंशनल इमेजिंग कैपेबिलिटी डेवलप करते हैं, वो डेटा सेट्स हमको मिलता है. और बहुत सारा नॉन इमेजिंग डेटा भी हमारे पास होता है, जैसे पॉइंट डेटा होता है, लाइन डेटा होता है, वेक्टर्स के फॉर्म में डेटा होता है. इन तीनों तरह के डेटा सेट्स को अगर हम कंबाइन करने के लिए कोई एक टूल चाहिए तो उस टूल को जियोग्राफिक इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम बोलते हैं. और वो जियोग्राफिक इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम का यूज करके हम अपनी लोकेशन से स्पेसिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन को एक्सट्रैक्ट करके प्लानिंग में, गवर्नेंस में, साइंस में, चेंज डिटेक्शन में, कई तरह से जिस तरह से भी चाहें हम उसको यूज कर सकते हैं. तो बहुत सामान्य भाषा में अगर कहा जाए तो ये तीनों टेक्नोलॉजीज का जो समागम होता है, उनका जो अमलगमेशन होता है, उसको हम जियोस्पेशियल टेक्नोलॉजी कहते हैं. अब इस संदर्भ में हम स्पेसिफिकली आज इसमें देखेंगे कि जो हमारे इसरो के सैटेलाइट्स हैं वो किस तरह से हमें जो इंफॉर्मेशन है स्पेस से दे रहे हैं. जैसा कि सर ने बताया, वी हैव थीमेटिक सैटेलाइट्स, वी हैव दिस रिसोर्स सेट, series of satellites which are supposed to provide you information about the natural resources. So currently ResourceSat 2 and ResourceSat 2A, these two satellites are operating with 3 different kinds of spatial resolutions at around 5 meters or so, 27 meters and 58 meters. It's called LIS-4, LIS-3 and AWIFS sensors. They have different repeating capabilities. Then we have this high resolution satellite systems called Cartosat series of satellite data. Last year in the month of December, we launched the highest civilian resolution satellite called Cartosat 3 with almost 25 centimeter imaging capability from space. Then third one is the oceans. Oceans are the most important. Basically they cover the 75% of the geographical area of Earth, and the climate of this planet is maintained by the energy balance as well as by the phytoplankton photosynthesis. So the microscopic plants which basically are there in the oceanic waters,
which basically can give you knowledge. The data is of no use.
So our endeavor, especially at institutes like Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, where we are having different thematic departments, is how to make use of this data by automatic processing systems, doing information fusion, and then creating smart databases. So once you have these smart databases, by combining different form of data, you can extract information, and then this information basically is translated in terms of knowledge. And this knowledge-driven society is the rich man is the one who has the knowledge today, and that's how many of the people, those who are making use of this knowledge, even for business purposes, some of the younger students are now starting their own startups by combining this different form of data to generate knowledge, so that this knowledge earns them revenue and money. Next slide, please. This is a small video. You see, this will give you just an idea that what a mighty system is Himalaya. We only think, you know, a few hills or few slopes and mountains, but Himalaya extends from Pamir, then Hindu Kush, and then we are here in the northwestern Himalaya, and then where we are sitting is the foothill region. You can see Dehradun going over there, and these are the mighty tops of Himalayan system, the higher Himalayas, which are most of the time of the year are permanently covered by the snow. And then in between you have these glacier. You see one of the glacier, this is the Gangotri glacier, just came over there. And then these are the other glacial systems which are just appearing on that screen. Now this particular video basically has been made by the Indian remote sensing data sets and combining the digital elevation model which we have for these particular regions. So you can see all these snow-covered mountains. In between you have these glacial systems from where the most of the rivers are emanating. And then on the other side of the mighty Himalayas you have the Tibetan plateau. And just now you saw the two famous lakes, the Mansarovar lake and the Rakshas Tala lake. Okay, we'll just run through this 2 minutes video. This basically gives you an imaginative capability of visualizing the entire Himalaya starting from Hindu Kush and going all the way up to the Arunachal Pradesh. And in between there are large amount of lake systems which are basically forming. These are the two famous lakes which have come up on the screen. One is the Lake Mansarovar, another one is called the Rakshastal. And then behind those lakes are the mighty Kailash. The Kailash mountains are there. And what you see here on the top is the desert system which is there in the north of Himalaya. Now, and then in between on the Tibet region you have many Tibetan or the Tibetan lake systems which are formed because of the collision of these two plates, and people used to think there used to be a ocean, and the Tethys ocean, the remnants are there in the form of. Now this is another view of Himalaya. When you are standing onto the Tibet plateau, that's how the Himalaya looks like. So this is a fly through, and these are the lakes basically which are there in the Tibetan region. And you can see the down, the slopes, which is basically running into the India region. This is mighty river Brahmaputra, which is coming out of the Tibetan plateau and then going down and coming into the eastern part of India. So essentially the idea of showing this video to all of you is to visualize how big such is a system. That's why it is called nowadays the third pole. You have the North Pole, you have the South Pole, but you also have what we call as the third pole, because it is basically the largest reservoir after North Pole and South Pole for fresh water in this region. And not only India, China and part of Central Asia, these all countries which are adjoining this region, they get their water from Himalaya. So it is basically such a mighty ecosystem which is sustaining two of the largest humanities in India as well as in China. So and of course the Southeast Asian region also. Next slide. So using these type of satellite data sets, if we talk about water resources, we can get information about the surface water dynamics, we can get information about the water availability by studying the snow melt runoff from the Himalayan systems, by also measuring the surface runoff, by also making measurements of annual and long-term water availability, as well as the amount of reservoir storage which we have in these regions. Then, of course, there are activities like infrastructure, water use management, operational hydrological projects, and water informatics. So all information about the water can be derived from these geospatial data sets. Next slide, please. So this is, now we come into the Himalayas, our central Himalaya. So what I thought that using this data, I will just give you a e-darshan or e-darshan of Char Dham. You know, my colleagues, he's sitting over here. They have made this wonderful video. So what you see over here is now we are into the Gangotri River Valley. So here we comes to the Gomukh, from where the Ganga starts, and now we are climbing over to the Gangotri glaciers. So this is the Gangotri glacier. The glacier here is debris covered, and you can see large amount of the glacial the lakes which are forming on the glacier. And as we now go to the higher stretches of the glacial system, we start seeing the fresh snow on the glacier. And this is another tributary glacier called Kirti Glacier over here. And these are basically the high altitude cliffs in this area. So not only you get an idea about the glacial system, you also get to know what kind of geomorphology is there in this region. And when we go to the other side of the Gangotri, we get into the what is known as the Kedar Valley. So now this is the Kedar Valley. You have these two beautiful glacial systems, Choravari Glacier, and this is the Kedarnath temple, and then this is the river which is flowing out from these two glacial systems. Now on the other side, the third side of this, you have the Badrinath, the Satopant Glacier. So now we just go to the other side of this system, and then we get into the Satopant glacial system, which will basically end at Badrinath temple. So this is the Satopant glacier. You can see this is coming up over here. The glacier is covered at the higher altitude with fresh snow, and as we go down the hill, you can see now two of these glaciers are meeting here, and then we will have the Mana village over there. This is the Mana village coming up in the screen, and then just below the Mana village you have the Badrinath. Lord Badrinath's temple is available over here. So the power of the technology is that sitting over here in this hall, in 3 minutes we could visualize and have e-darshan of 4 dhams, at least 3 dhams of the So we should be thankful to technological leaders like Dr. Kiran Kumar, who has provided such kind of wonderful tools in the space, that today we have this technology with us. Not only we can visualize, common people can visualize, but geoscientists and scientists, they can extract large amount of information about the morphology, about the glacial characteristics, the slope, and how this basically the glacial ice flow down to the riverine system, so that enough water is produced in the rivers which are feeding the plains of Himalayas, plains of Indo-Gangetic plains. Next slide, please. So we are using this data, which is because the data is collected on different dates throughout the year. The power of remote sensing is to have the temporal data sets. So using this kind of temporal data sets, a big national level projects are initiated in ISRO, where we are doing the systematic monitoring of Himalayan glaciers, because as you are aware, the glaciers are supposed to be under threat in the changing climatic regime because of the increasing of temperatures, and the mountain regions are also experiencing increase in the air temperatures. So how this increasing temperature is basically causing the changes, and how the glacial systems are responding to the threat of changing climate can be very effectively studied by some of these satellite images. So scientists have used even the oldest aerial photographs, space-based photographs, which are secret photographs called Corona from 1965, and then of course the recent data set. So here is one example of Samudra Tapu Glacier located in Chandra Basin. So there never used to be a lake system. In 1965, this glacial lake was not there. But today, a good amount of the Samudra Tapu Glacier has melted, and you can see a beautiful lake has formed in the front of the glacier, which never used to be there, or even if it was there, it was very small in 1965. So this is how the glacier is responding to the changing climate in this particular region. Next slide. This is another very interesting image. This is a 3-dimensional visualization of the Choravari glacial system. What you see here is basically the glaciers which are basically feeding into your Kedarnath Valley. So you have the Champion Glacier and the Choravari Glacier. What you see here is the type of morphology these glacial systems has. Such a steep slope, and down here in the lower end is the Kedarnath temple. And that was the Choravari lake, which was breasted in the Kedarnath Abda time frame. Still, this area is pretty vulnerable, because this glacier, especially the Champion Glacier, is just hanging, and then the glacial mass is just there over the Kedarnath temple. So this is what tells you the setting of this particular area. Next slide. This is, anyway, I have showed you the 3D view of Gangotri, and that blue color water which you see here on the down is the basically origin of river Ganga, and that place is basically called Gomukh. Now in 2017 we had a massive landslide in that area, and large amount of the glacial sediments have filled up this region, and we have estimated that around 1.4 kilometers stretch is now covered with glacial sediments, which is at places as high as 13 to 14 meter thick based on remote sensing technology. And we are continuously keeping track, because this glacial sediment which are now deposited around the Gomukh area is continuously changing the river course actually, and this can also become a potential danger in case of any eventual heavy rainfall event. Some of this glacial sediment can block the flow of the river, and which can cause significant amount of damage if a lake forms in this particular area. Next slide. Now another interesting visualization I want to show you. People say glaciers are moving ice, और इन जैसा हिंदी में कहते हैं हिमनद, हिम की नदी, नदी है बहती है, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोगों ने ग्लेशियर्स को बहते हुए नहीं देखा होगा. तो यहाँ पर हमने क्या किया है, 30 साल का 30 year satellite data we have put into a 30 seconds video, and you can see the how a glacier moves. You can see this glacial body moving, because the different glaciers, they move with different velocity. So using multiple satellite data, we have made this visualization, and on the other side you can see we have calculated the velocity of the glacier. So at different places, wherever you see the red color, the glacier velocity is high. Wherever you see the blue color, the glacier velocity is less. So it is on an average around 30 meters per year kind of a movement which happens in case of Gangotri glacier on an average. But of course it varies. On the higher stretches you have the higher velocities, and as you go down the velocity reduces. Now scientists have utilized this technique of calculating velocity from different date images to understand the glacial dynamics, as well as what is happening, what is the response of our glacier to climate change. And a beautiful paper got published in Nature Geoscience, where they have shown that the glacier velocity, especially in the central Himalayan region, is coming down. Glacier's velocity is reducing. Now why the glacier velocity is reducing? The glaciers are losing their mass. Now if a body basically which is sitting on this slope, if it is heavy, it will have basically a low, the velocity will be much larger. But if the mass reduces, the velocity will slow down. And that slowdown has been attributed to the reduction of the ice mass in the glacial system. And that's what we have also shown and demonstrated in one of the paper. One of the Indian researchers have shown that the Gangotri glacier velocity over 30 years of period of time is coming down gradually, and which is interpreted as the loss of the ice system in the whole Gangotri glacier belt. The problem with the satellite data, you only get the surface expression, you really cannot get the depth. But with this type of measurements, you can think of assessing how the volume of the ice in the glacier system is behaving. Next slide. Yeah, so this is about the morphological changes which has happened in the mouth of Gangotri Gomukh region. So what I show here, just before 2016, this image where the river mouth in the blue color, you can see very distinctly, and after this, the landslide has happened, how the river mouth has shifted towards the one of the flank, and large amount of sedimentary plume you can see is lying over there, which is around 1.4 kilometers in length. And that is how, using the modeling techniques, some of our colleagues have estimated that how much amount of sediments are lying at different stretches of this Gangotri glacier. Next slide. This is another interesting thing. These are central Himalayan, glaciers, especially glaciers in Himachal, Uttarakhand, in Sikkim, and in the northeast region. They are basically what they say, that they are retreating, they are going down. But at the same time, the glaciers in the Karakoram region, they are supposed to be surging, they are moving hard with faster velocity. So you please see this particular visualization where you can see that how fast this surging happens, and suddenly surging is, the glacier is moving slowly, and then there is an event where it surges very fast and it moves very rapidly. So this is a typical example. Using multi-date satellite data, we have reconstructed this beautiful animation which shows you the type of surging glaciers which we have in the Karakoram Himalayas. Next slide. This is another example of the surge. You can see the build-up of the ice, and then suddenly the ice moves and the glacier moves very fast at one particular time. Next slide. Yeah, this is another example where large amount of glacial lakes are forming because of the rapid retreat of few of the glaciers. This is one typical example where you can see that Imja group of glaciers in the eastern Nepal, how this particular glacier is rapidly retreating and giving rise to this fast growing glacial lake. So our colleagues have estimated that this glacial lake has increased in length of around 1.08 kilometers, roughly 1 kilometers. An area of almost 1 square kilometer has increased over a period since 1990. And such type of events are happening at multiple places in Himalayan system. And some of these becomes potential dangers also to the people. If the glacial lake become a large lake, then the breach also can happen, which can lead to flash flood downstream. Next slide. Now this is one study which has been done in IRS, where our colleagues have estimated the spatial distribution of glacial lakes in Uttarakhand region, and they have come out with the number of lakes and what is happening to these lakes. It is in context of the last slide. So now quantitatively for Uttarakhand we have analyzed this data, and we have found that a total number of 1,392 glacial lakes, which are basically larger than 500 square meter area, covering an area of 8.39 square kilometer as per record, they exist in Himalaya. And then some of them has basically increased in their volume over a period of time, showing that many of these glacial lakes are expanding in nature. Next slide. This is another interesting slide. I thought I will draw your attention to this. This is a glacial lake called Kedar Tal. It is just in front of Gangotri temple on the towards there is a stream, I think Kedar stream. So we keep an eye, our colleagues are regularly monitoring the snow cover products we have developed using various different satellite data systems, and we have also estimated that for which river basin the snow cover melt contributes significantly. So it has been shown that the Indus and the Ganga basin, their contribution of snow belt is much higher compared to the Brahmaputra basin. And the next slide which I show, the recent episode of snow. Next slide. Yeah, this has been generated by colleagues at IRS Dehradun, and what you see is the heavy snowfall this year, which has happened in the month of January. Around 9 January, you can see 76.22% of area, including your Mussoorie area, is covered by snow. So this snow, episodes which were very unique this year has been well captured by satellite data, and some of you can think of analyzing this data, that how much this snow, additional snow which has been there this year, would contribute towards the the amount of water which is there in this kind of stream which are available in this watershed systems. Next slide. So this was about the snow and glacier and the kind of water resource activities which one can think of doing with this data. Another important area for Himalaya is geoscience, because you are sitting in a setting which is tectonically very active, and then you have to also understand large amount of issues which are related with geology. So satellite also provide information for applications like groundwater prospects, morphology, mineral prospecting, landslides and earthquakes, and then land subsidence and geodynamics, which is very pertinent for this particular region. And we are having examples and studies for each of these application area, but since today time is less, I will just dwell on one or two aspects. Next slide. Next. So we are doing, using satellite remote sensing, using digital what we call the DINSAR, differential interferometric synthetic aperture radar technique, as well as by using GPS technology. We have mounted at many places these GNSS receivers, which are basically making measurements of this crustal movement, and very accurately we can find how the crust is moving and the directionality of the crustal movements, which can be basically linked with the tectonics, and so that we can better understand the deformations and geodynamics in this particular region. Next slide. So our colleagues have studied using DINSAR method the displacement of Nepal earthquake, as well as in this area we have set up a network of laboratories using this GPS arrays, so that we can basically visualize what kind of geodynamics motion is happening, and very interesting results in terms of loading and unloading of the reservoirs is also coming up in this region. Today we don't have much time, but we can have a separate discussion on that how the reservoirs and the water table, when it gets fully loaded after monsoon, what kind of kinematics it provides to the crust of this area, which probably can lead to certain kind of tectonic signals in this region. Next slide. Yeah, this is again a very interesting study which is basically related to the subsidence which is caused by the groundwater extraction. See, in North India, especially in the plains of North India, large amount of groundwater is being extracted for potable purposes, for irrigation purposes, and this extraction also causes deformation. So in especially a study has been done in Chandigarh and the surrounding regions where the deformation using interferometric SAR has been quantified, and people are also experiencing this deformation because many places where the deformation rates are very high, people are getting cracks in their buildings, and we need to understand that what are the causes and why this type of deformation is happening, and what is the rate of deformation, so that any kind of eventuality in terms of disaster can be avoided. Next slide. This is about the groundwater prospects where remote sensing also plays a critical role. Some of our colleagues are doing some work. I think Dr. Champati and his team, some of you are sitting over here. They have been doing this activity for local schools, especially in Mussoorie region and all, where finding water is very difficult in the hill. So using the geophysical techniques and the remote sensing data, we have had a couple of schools to find and locate the groundwater targets in this region. Next slide. So this is one example of one groundwater targeting which we performed to one of the school, and then confirmed the location of water using the geophysical prospecting, and that place the digging was done and they got good amount of water which was basically sustainable. So this kind of social geology or social geoscience is very, very important, so that it can be, the people in this area can be benefited by these technologies. Next slide. This is another example using UAVs. Nowadays we have the high resolution data from space, but UAVs are also coming up as a very potential tool for generating very rapid surveys of high resolution using the sensors which are mounted on this unmanned aerial vehicles. So this is one example. We acquired one UAV. We have flown it over a region called Balianala in Nainital area, and this region is very prone. You can see the slopes here, very prone to the landslides. So what we could achieve using photogrammetry done by this UAV is 20 centimeter contour intervals we could generate, and which is not possible today by space-based photogrammetry techniques. So this data is very useful for the local level administration, and this information has been provided to the district magistrates and the team working area in this area, so that which are working for geoengineering solutions to stop this type of regions, and also to advise, because large amount of people are living in these regions. So which are the people which needs to be shifted, because here the accuracies of the centimeter scale, and using this data we can advise administration that look, these areas are vulnerable and then these houses needs to be relocated because they are sitting in a dangerous zone. Another important thing which we are working in this Uttarakhand area and the Himalayan region is on the forest fires. So you can see the next slide was coming up. You see, we can track from space today. We have the technology, the live forest fires. So this is the forest line which has been detected. You see the red color, what you see in this image, and the blue color is the forest region, because this is basically used by a wavelength called shortwave infrared wavelength, where the emittance from the forest fire is maximum, and this shows you a clear-cut signature of the forest fire line. And such type of data is now rapidly available. And can we go to the next slide? Yeah, next. And in large areas, you can see also the smoke at many places. Next. So this is the example of Nainital district here, and many places you can see those red spots where the active forest fires are burning. And this becomes very important to provide information to the local administration, what is the nature of fire, extent of the fire, and we have also developed a mobile app which has been given to the forest department people at the ground, that they can also take geotagged photographs of the forest fire and get a real-time monitoring. And this a dashboard has been set up at the central location in Dehradun. They get immediately an idea that where are in the state the forest fires are happening, associate this information with the satellite data, and then do the planning purposes where to send the deployments to reduce this or to douse this forest fire system. Similarly, this solution has also been provided to Jammu and Kashmir government. Next slide. So as far as the young people are sitting over here, see, we can have large amount of data. We can have data coming from different sources, but until unless there are people, there are hands, and that too humans, you cannot get information and you cannot get knowledge. So the most important thing is also to develop capacity of our people, our students, to analyze this data. And our institute here at IRS Dehradun is involved in training and education purposes. and we are running different kind of training program. We have also the education programs in terms of masters in technology, master of science, so that you can come and learn how to analyze this data, how to cope up with data, and the techniques like advanced techniques like artificial intelligence, machine learning, how these concepts can be utilized to this large amount of data, and you can generate automated solutions from this data sitting here. So for all these purposes, you are most welcome to join some of our training, education and outreach program which we run throughout the year at IRIS Dehradun. Next slide. So as told by sir in the previous lecture, ISRO's endeavor is to provide continuity of the space-based services. So we are planning to repeat some of the observations as well as also to provide augmented observations from space. And in that context, Cartosat 3 has already just been launched. We are also going to launch a GISat kind of a satellite, which is a geostationary high resolution imaging satellite, as well as the science mission which is coming up with NASA ISRO called NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar mission. And I will show you that the kind of science which we can derive from NISR mission. Next slide. It's a dual frequency SAR in L and S band. Can we go to the next slide? And this will be useful for understanding the dynamics of ice and ice sheets, glaciers, as well as the sea level. Then also the biomass and the ecosystem studies, as well as to understand the solid earth deformation which are associated with the crustal dynamics, as well as by deformations which are caused by coal fires, deformations which are being caused by ground subsidence due to groundwater extraction, and of course, various amount of applications to the disaster response, as well as geoscience studies. So most of the people, those who are working in this area, for them this will be a direct benefit. So I urge that many of you start looking into the science and applications of NISR mission, and SAR data processing and SAR data analysis also is a very highly specialized subject. So for that purpose also, we are now continuously working with our teams at Ahmedabad and with JPL NASA to provide you the capacity building training activities here at IRIS Dehradun. With this, I thought I just will show you, give a glimpse the kind of activity which we are doing here in Dehradun as well as in some of the ISRO centers. I hope that this must have given you some food for thought, and especially for the young people, those who are sitting in the down, also to start some of the activities in their research work. Thank you very much.